All right, let's break it down. We are talking about the monumental federal conviction of music mogul Sean Combs. This is a verdict that has absolutely rocked the entertainment industry and honestly has completely dismantled a billion-dollar empire. Let's get right into it.
So it happened. On November 28, 2025, a federal jury came back with the verdict everyone was waiting for, and it was a bombshell. Sean Combs guilty. I mean, this was it. The stunning end to a trial that had the entire world watching and the final chapter for one of the most powerful figures in music history.
Now, to really get the weight of this, you have to look at what specifically he was found guilty of. This wasn't just one thing. We're talking about a trifecta of serious federal charges. First up, racketeering conspiracy. That's the big one. It means the government proved he was running a long-term criminal enterprise. And on top of that, he was convicted of sex trafficking and transportation for prostitution.
And the consequences? Well, they're staggering. Combs is now facing a life-eligible sentence. Think about that. The man who built this global brand, a self-made billionaire, could literally spend the rest of his natural life behind bars.
A verdict like this doesn't just happen overnight. This was the climax of decades of whispers, rumors, and outright allegations that have followed Combs his entire career. So, the big question is, how did the guy who seemed so untouchable for so long finally end up in federal court? Let's trace the path that got us here.
The pressure just built and built over the years. You had rumors in the early 2000s about his famous parties turning into something much darker. Then the 2016 hotel video of him assaulting Cassie Ventura came out, just a brutal piece of evidence the jury saw. But the real domino to fall was Cassie's lawsuit in November 2023. And when he settled it in just 24 hours, that set off alarm bells everywhere. Just 4 months later, Homeland Security was raiding his mansions.
Okay, so let's dive into the trial itself. What did the jury actually see and hear that convinced them? The prosecution laid out more than 300 exhibits, and together they painted this incredibly damning picture of a very organized and very brutal operation.
You know, the inventory list from those federal raids became a huge piece of the puzzle for the prosecution. They argued these weren't just random things. They were the tools of the trade for a criminal enterprise. I mean, over 1,000 bottles of lubricants, hidden cameras in every single bedroom, and a whole arsenal of military-grade weapons. It all pointed to a seriously predatory environment.
And it wasn't just physical evidence. The prosecutors followed the money, and boy, did they find it. They showed bank records detailing over $100 million flowing through a maze of shell companies. They told the jury this was a massive slush fund used for one thing, to buy the silence of victims and witnesses for years.
But you know, if there was one single moment that sealed the deal, it was probably this. This quote was caught on a federal wire warned by someone cooperating with the investigation. Hearing Sean Combs, in his own voice, say, "I own half these artists, they'll never snitch," for the jury, that was reportedly the final nail in the coffin, a straight-up admission of control and conspiracy.
Of course, this conviction wasn't just about Combs. A guy like that doesn't operate in a vacuum. The verdict sent tremors through his huge network of celebrity friends and associates, pulling some of the biggest names in the business right into the middle of this whole mess.
This table really helps make sense of the chaos. You've got Jay-Z, who got a subpoena and is now fighting it. Usher's phone was actually seized in the raids, and it showed over 200 calls to Combs right around the time of the Ventura lawsuit. Mary J. Blige is named as Person 3 in court documents, and it even goes back to Justin Bieber, whose team had to release a statement because of his association with Combs when he was just a teenager.
The financial collapse here has been just as dramatic as the legal one. See, under those federal RICO laws he was convicted of, the government can seize any assets they can tie to the criminal activity. So his huge partnership with Cîroc? Gone. Terminated. His companies like Revolt TV and Sean John are frozen, and his net worth is absolutely cratered, from about $1 billion down to less than $200 million.
So, let's talk about the verdict and what's happening right now. The guilty verdict wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. In fact, it was really the beginning of a new, and honestly, a potentially even more explosive chapter.
The criminal conviction basically opened the floodgates. Now that his guilt is established in federal court, more than 40 new civil lawsuits have been filed by other alleged victims. And the total amount they're seeking? It soared past a mind-boggling $10 billion.
This quote from Tony Busby, who's one of the main attorneys for the victims, it really says it all, doesn't it? He represents over 120 accusers, and he's gone on record saying his clients are planning to name alleged celebrity enablers in open court. That tells you this scandal is far from over. It's only going to get bigger. So what's the next big date to watch? Circle it on your calendar. February 14th, 2026. On Valentine's Day of all days, Sean Combs is scheduled to stand in front of that judge and find out exactly how long he'll be spending in federal prison. The conviction of Sean Combs has completely changed the music industry. It's raising huge questions about power, about accountability, and what happens when people stay silent for too long. So while the case against him might be over, the fallout is really just getting started.